Everybody, it's Frog. Looks like we got some new patch notes coming up for November 13th, 7 a.m. Central European Time. So, just gonna give a quick read, a quick run through the notes, see what we got coming up for us. So, thank you for jumping into the fellowship during our first ever Halloween event. Thanks for the feedback. Maintenance is starting 7 a.m. Central European Time. Uh, Same as it has been. um, Into the Haunting. The Haunting a Stronghold event is now over. Thank you to everyone who took part. The response has been very positive, and it's great to see so many players showing off their seasonal costumes. In general, remove the Haunting a Stronghold event, update the Stronghold's appearance, update music, emitters, and ambience, update Stronghold loading screen, remove the Caretaker of Fallen Heroes. Uh, Okay. Oh, some new things here. Added the ability to bind left and right mouse buttons, but only when used with modifiers. Fixed an issue where middle mouse clicks weren't registering when on health bars. Fixed an issue where non-party leaders were still getting AFK kicked while matchmaking. Fixed an issue with the select previous target functionality where the history could be lost. And fixed various translation issues and text throughout the game. So some nice little fixes there in general. Under UI, added feedback so health bars on the party frame will now fade down when the other player is out of range or line of sight to them is blocked. Distance check is based on the standard max range of ranged hero abilities. Okay, that's cool. Now you will get some kind of indicator on the party frame that their box will like dim out, it seems, when they're out of range. That's good. Added a refresh regions button to the start menu to force the refresh of each region state. Previously, players needed to restart the client. Okay. Um, then down here in heroes, oh, it looks like we have like a lot of notes here for balance change. Okay. Under heroes, cloth and leather armor adjustments. We've increased the amount of armor provided by cloth and leather items. Our intention is to have a noticeable difference in between the armor classes in the game, and to over time supply players with a variation of ways to deal with encounters where physical damage specifically becomes a problem for them as we continue expanding on the game's systems. However, we have noticed that the difference was larger than intended on higher difficulties and decided to increase the amount of armor found on cloth and leather items to reduce that gap. This will affect all cloaks and rhyme all cloaks, typo there, Rhyme and Ardios, and who wear cloth, and Sylvie, Mara, Elarion, and Mako leather um, wear. So at 330 item level, cloth heroes now have around 25% physical damage reduction from their armor, was 14.5%, and at 330 item level, leather heroes will now have around 32% physical damage reduction from their armor. Uh, wow. Okay, nice. So as a Larion player, that's like a 10% physical damage reduction buff, so we like that. Also a bit of a buff for Mako for all the Mako players, so that's nice. So wow, some really nice changes there. Armor adjustment and Mako. Oh, okay, I guess they're about to address what I literally was saying. Adjusting for the changes to leather armor values, we have adjusted Mako's kit in some places to make sure her defensive power does not increase while she has all of her buffs and effects active. The change will increase Mako's defensive power when she has no buffs or effects active. Stone Shield now increases Mako's armor by 20%, was 50%, per stone up to a maximum of 60% at 3 stones, 150%. Spirited Armor, Spirit Refund passive now increases Mako's armor by 20%, was 30%. To clarify how the above changes affect Mako's defensive power in various situations using 330 item level without gems as the reference point, with no buffer effects, Mako now has 48.95% physical damage reduction. It was 41%. With Stone Shield at 3 charges, Mako has 68.17 physical damage reduction. Was 66%, so 2% gain there, or a little less than that. With Stone Shield at 3 charges and Spirited Armor proc, Mako now has 70.88% physical DR, was 70.82. With Stone Shield at 3 charges and plus Resonance from Talent plus Serenity DR from Legendary Boots, Mako now has 83.45% physical DR, was 82. with Stone Shield at 3 charges, plus Resonance, plus Serenity, plus Spirited Armor. Mako now has 84. Okay, so it's pretty much shaking up the same, but it looks like at lower levels, maybe she has a little bit more armor, a little bit more physical damage reduction. So, really appreciate the clarity here. I don't play Mako, so I don't know how big this is, but I mean, overall it seems like a buff. Ardios, the direct damage dealt while channeling Incinerate has been increased by 312%. Oh, wow. The damage over time of Incinerate now deals 62.5% increased damage. The damage over time of Incinerate now gains 30% increased damage for each stack applied. Incinerate now has a static channel time of 2.5 seconds, and its tick rate is now affected by your haste. Incinerate no longer generates cinders. Okay. Oh, there's a dev note here too. Ardios' spirit ability, Incinerate, was underperforming and did not have enough of an impact beyond its ability to generate cinders and extend the duration of his other damage over time effects. In addition to this, Ardios' ramp time has been a bit too long, especially in the early game. As such, the ability no longer generates cinders and deals heavy damage on its own to allow Ardios players to get into their big burst moment earlier. And also, the initial direct damage of Apocalypse has been increased by 50%. I don't know the math on Ardios. I'm not an Ardios player. Uh, you're losing 4 cinders, but gaining what looks like a ton of damage on ult. So, and then I think players in the earlier leagues will feel this a lot too, where it feels like their ult will feel as an impactful button to press. Um, so this seems like a nice change. Taric, there's a lot of notes here under Taric. Heavy Strike damage was increased by 50%, and the static portion of its Fury generation increased to 7%, a 3% buff from 4. Facebreaker damage increased by 50%, and the static portion of its Fury generation increased to 6%. Wild Swing damage increased by 100%. Chain Lightning now deals damage 6 times baseline, was 5 times, so you get an extra damage instance. Thunderstruck talent now grants Chain Lightning 2 additional bounces, was 3, so no changes there, really, because I think everybody was taking Thunderstruck. Chain Lightning damage reduced by 50%, Skull Crusher damage increased by 10%, Pulling Strike damage increased by 54%. The additional lightning damage dealt by Heavy Strike, Skull Crusher, and Hammer Storm during Thundercall was reduced to 30% of the initial hit. It was 50%. Schism talent now has 3.2 ppm, was 1.2 ppm, and the damage bonus has been reduced to 200%, was 300%. So you're proccing about 0.2, 3.6. You're proccing about like, I don't know, 60% more, 100% damage. Okay. Bloody Brass Necklace, Legendary Necklace, now deals 350% of Facebreaker's damage to the target of 24 seconds. Was 450%. There's a note here. The lightning damage in Taric's kit has been reduced while the power of his other abilities have been increased. Overall, his total damage should be at a similar place as before, but more of the damage is coming from your non-lightning mechanics with the intention of making other legendaries and talents more competitive. Okay, yeah, because it seems like a lot of the stuff that you were running was a bunch of lightning augment, and people were maybe probably only playing like this one lightning build, but it seems like they're trying to branch out options here. So like that. Some rhyme change. Fixed an issue where Wrath of Winter would cancel when rhyme was being moved by a force push, such as High Tide or the Rivers in Sailor's Abyss. Sylvie fixed an issue where spawning Life Petal through Dryad's Haven legendary boots could cancel other abilities or be canceled by other abilities. Oh, that's a nice fix. Vigor fixed an issue where Vigor's orb would pull enemies too far beneath him. Okay, nice. So maybe some less pulls here. And then looks like Alarion, Mara, and Helena were not touched on this patch. We got some dungeon balance changes. Oh my god, I see a huge one right here. Hold on though. Dungeon timer adjustments. Looks like a bunch of dungeons are getting some extra time, make things easier. Wormheart's getting 15 more seconds. Sailor's Abyss is getting 20 seconds. Empyrean Sands 20 seconds. Burak Markets 20 seconds. Godfall Quarry 35 seconds. Everdawn Grove 48 seconds. Silken Hollow 50 seconds. I mean, those are some. Personally, I think the Grove and the Hollow ones are insane. Grove Boss takes quite a long time to get through. In Silken Hollow, the amount of time you spend on carrying horrors, this one will be big too. So really nice changes here. Sithral's Fall. Sithral's Path of Oblivion damage from the initial hit has been reduced by 20%. Okay, that's insane. This is hitting for like really close to like 240 to 260k on like Sithral's Fall 25. So this is nice. Nice little bit of damage reduction here. Sithral's Blood Hunt initial damage hit has been reduced by 10%. That's great. Bleed damage reduced by 20%. Damage from the Blade of Sithral's Spinning Blades ability can now be blocked, dodged, or parried. Oh, okay. Very nice change for the tanks here. Blade of Sithral's Icebreaker ability now detaches from the player after 1 second, allowing players time to move out of the impact area. Okay, great. Um, Tundra Stalker's Rapid Fire now has a 1.5 second precast, uninterruptible. Okay, cool. So some really nice Sithral Fall changes there. Blade of Sithral's gives us more room to outplay. I love that. Tundra Stalker Rapid Fire definitely helps for tanks. And then last boss should be less of an obstacle. I mean, when you look at the capstone dungeons completed, the rate of Tuzari, Wraithtide, and Ransack that are being done in the 30s is a lot higher than Sithral's Fall that has been done in the 30s. Most players are at like 21 and some at 25, and I don't remember seeing a lot at 29. So I think somebody showed me where logs on Sithral's Fall. There was only like 18 Alarion players that had did like 29 Sithrals. Anyway, Warmheart changes. The Cold Heart Assassin's Cold Heart Poison ability now has a 2-second uninterruptible cast. Okay, so now we can see it. And looks like we'll be able to, because that mob is CCable, you'll be able to interrupt that with things like Grappling Arrow or Cyclone, Frigid Winds, so that would be great. Cold Heart Assassin's Wicked Strikes now waits 1 tick after the stun to start stabbing the target. Okay, really great change there. Damage from the Blade of Sithral's. Okay, same thing from Sithral's Fall here for the Blade of Sithral's and Tundra Stalker as well. Fixed an issue where Sithral's flyaway animation would not play if one player reached the boss before the others. Okay. Empyrean Sands changes. Damage from the Tomb Guard Reaver's Whirlwind ability can now be blocked, dodged, or parried. And Acolyte of Cenari's Wrath of Cenari damage reduced by 59%. So if you miss a kick on that, maybe you don't die. Be interesting to see. The last boss on Empyrean Sands, Ruinous Star Explosions can no longer be outranged by players. And the arena now has a barrier that activates in the doorway once the encounter has started. So no more Sands cheese. The damage of the explosions has been reduced by 10%, and the health of the stars has been reduced by 15%. So some good changes to Sands. Glad that we're not seeing any boss cheese strats. Gonna hopefully be eliminated by this. And Empyrean Sands and Wraithtide Vault. Looks like they're nerfing the Sentinels so that we don't see any Sentinels cheese anymore. But yeah, Greed Spawn Sentinel damage reduced by 30%. Godfall Quarry, the Enforcer's Piercing Strike now has a 2-second precast and a new sound effect on both the precast and the impact. So great change for the tanks. The boss encounter will now reset correctly if a lone player starts the encounter and dies before other players join the fight. And then Sailor's Abyss fixed an issue where players would not be able to detach from the mast at the team wipe during Synthara's song phase. Okay, so some really nice changes here. I do really like that Chief Rebel is taking this kind of approach where we're not really nerfing anything. We're having transparency in the notes. Buffs have kind of been like for every character now. We got some good dungeon changes coming out tomorrow, so I'm excited to see how this shapes up and then see like how people continue to push. As always, I'm streaming every day on Twitch. You can come check me out there at twitch.tv/thespyfrog. I'd be more than happy to answer questions, talk to people, and continue to push keys. So I'll see you all there.